without further ado, let's quickly introduce two more gentlemen who will be joining us tonight. It's a testosterone-filled show, not by design, but it is what it is. But in case you didn't get the memo, every single match that the Super Eagles of Nigeria will play in their qualifying campaign quest for the 2026 FIFA World Cup is now a crucial one. Tomorrow in Uyo is another one, as the Super Eagles, fresh from a rousing 2-0 win away in Kigali over Rwanda, will face the Brave Warriors of Zimbabwe. Now, the Super Eagles must win their remaining 5 matches in order to stand a chance. It's not guaranteed, but stand a chance of qualifying for the tournament. But tomorrow, Zimbabwe, the Brave Warriors, will try and make that impossible. Well, joining us tonight are two fine Zimbabwean gentlemen. All the way from Harare is Hope Chizuzu, who is the publishing editor of The Page. Thank you so much for coming through tonight, Mr. Chizuzu. An absolute pleasure to have you on the show. And also joining us from Suffolk in the United Kingdom is Makomborero Mutimukulu, who is also the former sports editor of the Sunday Mail. Gentlemen, thank you for coming through tonight. Where football brings Nigeria and Zimbabwe together. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. But let me start with you, Hope. Do you have hope that Zimbabwe can do a job, well, do I say an Italian job or a Zimbabwean job on Nigeria tomorrow in Uyo?
Very interesting question. Good evening, everybody. I think the Warriors have enough in their arsenal to deal with Nigeria. It doesn't matter. They will be playing very far away from home, the southeastern part of your country over there. Zimbabwe are good enough, and things have changed over a long period of time in African football. They are no longer big guns. They are no longer small guns. And the fact that you guys are very happy that you won in Rwanda shows that times have really changed. These never used to be matches that you would talk loftily of countries like Rwanda. Nigeria used to be a very, very big brand, and the times have really changed, and the Warriors have a very big chance of actually upsetting you in your cauldron.
Well, Makomborero, let me come to you as well. It will take a brave team to come to Nigeria and snatch victory from the jaws of the Super Eagles of Nigeria. It's a daunting task, but is Zimbabwe the team that can do that, in your opinion?
Team that can do that, like Hope alluded to, you are a Nigeria team that is far from being super. Maybe you are Eagles, but I don't think you are super Eagles. You struggle along in games, and the noise that is always in your camp reaches us wherever we are. And we know that Nigeria, whatever game they play, they are under pressure. They are obliged to win. But more often than not, you struggle to win. And in your introduction, you said we need to win the last 5 games to stand a chance. So that speaks to the campaign that you have had so far. You are patriotic and confident, but the 5 games that have gone behind us have shown that this Nigeria team can be beaten. We came close to beating you in the first qualifier. It ended 1-1. We know what needs to be done. Our boys will be sacked up. We know the big name players that we have, but we are also aware of the big pressure that comes with Nigeria playing at home. You are obliged to perform. You are obliged to win. We need to come there and put up a fight. And we know that that crowd will not rally behind you until the 60th minute when things are tough. And because you've got an array of so-called stars, your coach is under pressure to make changes. We are aware of that. So this Zimbabwean team, you can underrate it at your own peril, but they can come to Nigeria and do a proper Zimbabwean job on the ego side that used to be super.
Woo. Okay.
Well, guys, it's obvious you know so much. But I think on Friday, your team struggled to hold the cheaters of Benin Republic. You know, that game ended 2-2. The Beninese were leading 2-0, and you had to rally around to, draw that game 2-2. I want specifically your reaction on a comment made by the Super Eagles captain, William Truss Ekong, who said, and I quote, that they are aware that there are some countries, some people motivating the Warriors of Zimbabwe. Are there any alignment, from that region to stop the Super Eagles from getting to the World Cup?
In other words, he's asking, gentlemen, is South Africa, your brothers in the SADC region, are they giving you extra motivation to beat the Super Eagles of Nigeria?
I will let Hope go first. My big brother, you can take it first.
The South Africans themselves are actually shitting their pants that they don't want to meet these Warriors at the moment. In fact, they are actually hoping that the Nigerians would beat the Warriors so that at least they can increase their gap between Nigeria and themselves. So clearly, South Africa are not even motivating us in any way. Even if they try to, there is no parity in that wisdom.
Okay. Makomborero, you want to add to that as well?
Well, I think what your captain said is akin to Ghana motivating Nigeria. If you are aware of the relations that we have, there is no love lost between Zimbabwe and South Africa. If we were to choose a better enemy, we would choose Nigeria.
Really?
Because from days gone by, I think Hope would allude to that. In days when we used to struggle to qualify for the Africa Cup of Nations, it is Nigeria that we supported. We remember the iconic Rashidi Yankini celebration in the United States of America in 1994. We remember Nwako Khan. We remember Tijani Babangida being red carded in the Olympics, because it is a team that we identify with. So for somebody to then hallucinate and suggest that South Africa is motivating us, they are questioning our standing as a people. We are not corrupt. We love the game. We might be struggling, but like you rightly said, we had a bad start against Benin. But for a team to come from 0-2 down and take a point and almost win that game, you need to give us some respect, mate. We are not a small-time team. We are a team that knows what it's doing. And if we didn't know what we were doing, you guys wouldn't be inviting us here, would you? No, you wouldn't. And the last time out, you saw what could have happened. And the stunning free kick that Otamson scored against your goalkeeper. And all you guys called for the goalkeeper to be changed. But that is what class does. It confuses the opponent. And we look forward to the game in Uyo tomorrow night.
Okay, Favor, you have a question
right,
for
Hope
yes?
and our brother from Zambia. I mean, when you look at the record speaks for Nigeria against Zimbabwe. The last time, I don't think Zimbabwe has defeated Nigeria in a competitive game. Do you think that record, work as a disadvantage to your team, knowing fully well that when you look at the table at the moment, Zimbabwe is also struggling to get points? I mean, you made mention of how Nigeria has struggled, but I think at the moment, Zimbabwean team have struggled even more than Nigeria when you look at the table, and also looking at the fact that you're coming to a terrain that is a fortress for the Super Eagles of Nigeria.
The iron of history is a bit lazy. It's a proposition that does not really matter. Because if you look at the history that we are talking about, we are talking of those players that perhaps made Nigeria great then, and all of them are no longer in contention for what we are talking about, particularly in this match. So history is good for media, it's good for traction, it's good for everything else, but not the match that we are waiting for tomorrow. So history is not a factor when we really look at this match. We are expecting the tomorrow to be playing in Nigeria that perhaps plays as well as we do or as worse as we do, if there is anything to do with that. So clearly, people can talk about this history that Zimbabwe has never beaten Nigeria. These things do happen, of course, but I can tell you that with the development or the developing side that we have at the moment, Nigeria can actually look and feel even smaller if these boys click tomorrow.
Interesting. Well, Makomborero, let me come to you. You look at this Zimbabwean squad. It's not a bad squad on paper. some really experienced campaigners here as well. There's Jordan Zemura, who plays in Udinese. There's Knowledge Musona, a player we have knowledge of. There's also Marvelous Makamba, who I think is actually a marvelous midfielder. I remember his time in the Premier League as well. But another name that I've been looking at is Mashar Munetsi, a player you would probably know quite well because you watch him week in, week out for the Wolverhampton Wanderers as well. Is there any other player that Zimbabweans are looking at as possibly the game changer, the one that could probably break the back of the Super Eagles tomorrow?
Look, we have a plethora of players. It is a generation that is coming. You are waiting for them to hit the big time in the EPL, but they're doing business in Scotland. So we are not a team that is driven by a man. We are probably aware that if Osimhen catches a cold tomorrow, the whole Nigeria team will sneeze. So we know. But for our team, it is the Warriors. We go into battle as a team. And on any day, we've got a match winner. And these young boys are determined to make a name. It is such games. It is such big games. When you play against Nigeria, when you play against Egypt, that's defying you. This is where you stamp your authority on a national team jersey. And I've been talking to these boys. They are fired up. They are ready for the game. We know that the crowd will be against us. The weather will be against us. And to some extent, we expect a referee who, in some instances, will be against us. But all this, we are ready for. So we are confident.
Makomborero, you are making excuses already. You are making excuses already. You are saying the weather, the crowd, the referee. No, my friend. But just
we are aware of what it means to play Nigeria away.
Okay.
I think we have been there. We have done that. So there is nothing new. I can even tell you the tune that goes pam 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 pam. That's how much we know the Nigerian story.
Very true. But gentlemen, what about just quickly to wrap this up? What about those who are saying that maybe the Brave Warriors should abandon hope, no pun intended, with the FIFA World Cup qualifiers and focus more on an upcoming Africa Cup of Nations that has seen them qualify, where they will campaign alongside, I think, Egypt, Angola, and South Africa as well. That maybe this is where they should be, the focus should be. Do you agree with that, Hope, Makomborero?
Certainly not. The African Cup of Nations is a different pot of fish. And the World Cup is totally a different pot of fish. That explains why we are actually at the basement of the group in the World Cup qualifiers, but we made easy of the qualification for Morocco 2025. And that has got nothing to do with the performance or lack of it of our boys. When you really look at the assumption that we are already using these qualifiers to prepare for African Cup of Nations, I think it's a little bit of some disrespect from that notion. We are not even looking at that. We are actually looking at competing in these qualifiers. There are still 15 points to play for in the World Cup.
Very true.
And if we get all the 15, starting with the 3 against the so-called Super Eagles tomorrow, we are actually in serious condition of qualifying for the World Cup 2026. So looking at perhaps using this as a platform to prepare for the African Cup of Nations is an attempt to try and distract us from the game at hand.
Okay.
And I don't really think it has got anything to do with how we are playing tomorrow or how we have been preparing. We have been preparing for the World Cup. And we have not been worrying ourselves for the African Cup of Nations, in which you know we are meeting South Africa and Angola, two teams that are in our zone, and we know how well or how poor they play. Same for Egypt, whom we also do play very close matches with over the years. It's a totally different kettle of fish, and this World Cup will perhaps teach us one or more lessons about how Nigeria have fallen in terms of their quality, in terms of their pedigree, in terms of their performance. Even matches that are now being played in the southeast of the country. That is very un-Nigerian.
I've enjoyed the fighting talk from my two fine guests tonight. But before we go, we cannot let you leave without giving us your predictions regarding tomorrow's game. How do you think it will pan out, and what is the final scoreline? Let me start with you, Makomborero.
Well, I think we need a good start, and a 2-1 victory for the Warriors is in the offing. And well, look, and we all know what will happen. There will be noise in Nigeria, and we'll start to hear stories that the coach hasn't been paid and the players don't get along. So 2-1 to Zimbabwe, and we commiserate with you as we celebrate 3 points from Nigeria.
Oh, God, you gentlemen have been an absolute riot. But hope, I'm sure you are going to give Makomborero hope and all of Zimbabwe. So what is your prediction for the game tomorrow, and also the possible scoreline at the end of 90 minutes?
Zimbabwe will win 1-0 tomorrow. And Nigeria, for once, we will not be talking of the coaches not being paid. And more so, you've got an African coach for once, one who is not Nigerian. And that could be perhaps something that you need to have a real look at, because I believe there are much, much better coaches who are Nigerian. I don't know why you guys decided to go for the Malian guy, who could even be Ivorian, who could even be French.
Wow, well, it's been an absolutely interesting conversation speaking with Hope Chizuzu, who is the publishing editor of The Page, joining us from Harare, Zimbabwe tonight, and Makomborero Mutimukulu, who joined us all the way from Suffolk in the United Kingdom. Gentlemen, it's an absolute pleasure having you on the show, and hopefully you'll be brave enough to come back and swallow your words after 90 minutes tomorrow. We'll be looking forward to...
That's fine. We'll come back and we'll
wrap-up show tomorrow evening, eh?
We look forward to it. Well, thank you for your time, gentlemen. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yes, thank you very much. Good night.
Good night.
Blessed.